Thanks for joining us. Let's get started. So welcome everyone. This marks the first in our new webinar series on rethinking your crowdfunding pre-launch strategy. And it's brought to you by our very own campaign strategy team. And throughout this webinar series, we'll have some guest cameos throughout the series from different members of our team. So this webinar was also supposed to stream on our official LinkedIn Live, but we'll have also a recording of this actual webinar later on to share with you and on our social media channels. So in case you miss out on registering for the Zoom or have to drop off later on, you can just give us a follow on LinkedIn where we'll post their full recording of this webinar, as well as on potentially in our other channels as well. And so before we begin, we just wanted to give you a few reminders. We'll have time for Q&A after this sort of listen and learn part of the webinar. There is a Q&A menu button right below on your Zoom. So just feel free to drop any of your campaign creation, campaign strategy related questions in the Q&A menu below. And since this is going to be a webinar about pre-launching your crowdfunding campaign and project on Indiegogo, let's keep all the comments and questions related to the topic, and any other questions you have around Indiegogo. We also have a great Indiegogo help center that you can reference. So thanks again for joining us. Thanks for your time. I'll hand this off now to Amy Chu, our very own global campaign marketing strategist, who will lead the webinar. So just a background on Amy. Amy has provided her guidance and consultation to many of our top crowdfunding campaigns, and under her management, the total funds that she raised for campaigns is over $35 million and counting. So yeah, hope you enjoy. And Amy, I'll let you take the lead.
Thank you for the intro, Classy. So hello, everyone. I'm very excited to meet everyone today and to present our first session in this series about building your pre-launch list with Facebook advertising. I personally feel very passionate about the pre-launch community building strategy because it's really the foundation of launching your product. So when you do it right, your campaign is more likely to get the momentum that you need and evolve into an impactful one on our platform. So here's four main topics that we will cover in today's session. We'll start with the concept of why you should launch a pre-launch community when you do an Indiegogo campaign. Then we'll share the specific strategy and tactics that you can use to run your Facebook ad campaigns. Next, we will talk about the impact of Apple's iOS release on your Facebook advertising strategy. Lastly, because of this release, how to continue running a successful ad campaigns using our Indiegogo's conversion API solution will be important starting from your pre-launch advertising. So why choosing Indiegogo for your product launch? Our mission here is to empower people to unite around ideas that matter most to them and together make those ideas come to life. So Indiegogo is really where the new launch is. We are now having over 20 million unique visitors every month, and backers on our platform came from 237 countries or regions around the world. So we are really the global platform where you can launch your product and the new and groundbreaking products take flight before they hit the mainstream market. So when considering doing an Indiegogo campaign, it's important that you keep in mind crowdfunding is not equal to e-commerce. And these nuances between crowdfunding and e-commerce will guide you through your whole go-to-market strategy. So here are a few things that you should know about the key differences. E-commerce is a short and private interaction in which the buyer's money is immediately reciprocated with goods and services. And while crowdfunding is a long drawn out public interaction and a relationship building process between a campaigner and a social group of backers. So with that in mind, let's get started with the 3 stages of your Indiegogo campaign. The most and the largest determinant of your crowdfunding success will happen in the pre-launch phase. And so that's why we divide crowdfunding into various phases, as you see here. So pre-launch, this is when you collect qualified leads. The larger and qualified the email list is, the more likely that the campaign will do exceedingly well. And after the campaign launches, this is when you as a campaigner actually start collecting money from your backers, as well as their feedback for the product idea. And lastly, post-launch, when you as a campaigner and the campaign, this is when you start your hard work to begin manufacture your product and ship the product to your backers. So here is a chart that I captured from our one of our campaigns. This is a usual campaign fundraising progress. And this is also the activity that we want to see in the campaigns that launch on Indiegogo. As you can see on the left, so this from day 1 to day 3, these are the most important times throughout the campaign, especially the first 24 to 48 hours, because the pre-launch list acquired via your advertising will be the main traffic source when you first launch the campaign. So to keep in mind that all your pre-launch hard work will play into the first few days of your launch. So there's a various way to build your community. And today we'll be focusing on Facebook and why Facebook is the most important and popular platform these days is because, even with iOS 14's changes, advertising's strategy, the audiences on Facebook still remain ideal for you as a campaigner and a marketer to target, test, and optimize your campaign. And so today I will provide you some strategic advices on your advertising planning for the pre-launch phase. And here, this is an overview of the customer journey that you can envision your prospective customer experience throughout the pre-launch phase. Starting with advertising, you bring the campaign and your brand to your target audience to increase their awareness. You will further drive them to sign up on a landing page in order to collect their contact information. Once you validate your user persona and marketing strategy during the test phase, you will be able to scale your user acquisition based on the learnings during this period and continue to grow your pre-launch email list for the big launch. So today we'll be focusing more on the advertising strategy during this phase. And when you start your ad planning, I recommend you start thinking about the following questions. Here I say 4W and 1H questions to help formulate your advertising strategy. These are going to be helpful for your overall marketing strategy and can apply to other advertising channels if you choose to include them in your campaign. So think about, what's your product's unique selling point, who is your target audience, why your audience want your product, and how to communicate your product idea to your audience, and where do you want to place your ads. Specifically on Facebook and Instagram, there are some nuances of each platform, but just to keep in mind that they both offer various placements that you can play around with to advertise your product to your audience. You will need to evaluate the marketing assets that will work best for different placements to bring the most value to your target audience. So we just talked about the advertising campaign at a very high level. Now we are going to dive into each subtopic of running a successful pre-launch advertising campaign. So first of all, after you think through the four W1 edge question that I just mentioned, you will need to come up with your initial hypothesis. So think of advertising as an experiment, and you are conducting your research in the real world using Facebook's and Instagram's user pool to validate or invalidate your assumptions. As you collect more data, you will be able to learn from your audience and improve your performance accordingly in order to establish a solid foundation with your funding goal in mind and gradually increase your budget as you receive the positive and strong return of investment through your advertising. So now let's start with the target audience strategy. As rule of thumbs, we want to target specific enough, but also broad enough to reach the right audience with the most opportunity that you can market your product to. So combining the specific and broad approach can make sure that you are reaching a significant amount of people, and at the same time, not pouring your money into the ocean. As we discussed early, crowdfunding's transaction model is different from e-commerce. That said, it will allow you to target the right audience who's more likely to back your campaign on Indiegogo by narrowing your targeting to crowdfunding audience. And this is why I mentioned the filtering rule here on the slide. And here's a quick overview of what's included in the audience settings under Facebook. First of all, demographic is definitely a very easy way to narrow down your audience. You can use like geolocation, age, or gender to narrow down your target audience. Second, interests and behaviors. These are predefined audiences based on Facebook users' browsing habits or the brands they follow. And then next would be lookalike and custom audience. These could be created based on your past customer list or just page activities. And based on your uploaded customer list, Facebook will try to find people with similar or browsing behaviors with the ones that you have on your past customer list. And this can be easily done within Facebook's dashboard. And here I'm just showing you the settings that you will be able to find under your Facebook ad manager, where that you can create your custom audience by uploading a list and using website actions track your pixel to do your remarketing. So now let's talk about the ad copy. So I have an example of what a Facebook ad will look like here. As you can see that basically from your Facebook page handle, the tags, the headline, and call to action, these are all the tags. And you should be prepared to create multiple ad copy variation that tie back to the key messaging that you have defined upfront. And here are some pro copywriting tips that we have seen being successful. So first of all, make sure your ad copy is short and sweet and match your tags with visual. Your copywriting should also be using a second party tone of voice as if you're speaking to your audience. And then include incentives such as discounts, savings, and time frame to make your messaging more appealing to your audience. And lastly, it's also important to have a clear call to action to convey what action you want your audience to take. And so, for example, it could be sign up or learn more or purchase. These would be good examples of the call to action. So these are a few great examples of ad copywriting. There are a variety of formats that you can test and learn from. Here there's a list of features, or just using a testimonial format. So the takeaway from here is, be sure to start with a few variations to help you gather the user data and see which copy will resonate with your target audience the most. And next, ad creative. So a successful ad cannot go without an intriguing and captivating visual. Based on our past experiences, marketing assets that look natural and organic would be more likely to perform well compared to those that are very polished or Photoshoppy or salesy type of visuals. So with that being said, visuals such as showing how the product works in different use cases, or third-party reviews, or even just your internal unboxing pictures or videos could do their work nicely. Here I have a few good examples of the winning ad creative from our campaigners that you can learn from. So see that all these visuals do not use any like overlay tags or elements heavily, so that the ad creative is kept clean and natural without being too salesy to users. And it is important to avoid treating it like a commercial ad too much, because users on Facebook and Instagram are more likely to pause and give your attention to your ad post while scrolling through their feeds when they see something more organic and natural. So with all the creative and targeting work done, you're now having your ad launch and the data are coming in, and now it's the time for you to evaluate your performance based on these key ad metrics and optimize your ads to receive the best results. Here, I use a sales funnel to match the key ad metrics on the left for you to understand what each metrics represent during each phase. So on the top, we'll use cost per 1,000 ad impressions to measure the consumer awareness of your campaign. This implies your cost of ad delivery is based on ad quality, engagement, supply, and demand. Next, link click-through rate. This tells how engaging your ad is and whether they would, your consumers would take your product or service into consideration by watching your ads. Cost per link click, similar to click-through rate. This is to understand the ad engagement from a cost perspective. And cost per lead, this metric means how interested user is in your product so that they decide to sign up on the landing page to receive more updates from you. And lastly, landing page conversion rate. This metric is to tell you how well your landing page communicates your product value proposition to your prospective backers. And if your key metrics above are positive and consistent, then congratulations, you're on the right track to launching a successful campaign with a solid pre-launch community. And now, as some of you have read and heard about Apple iOS 14 privacy tracking prompt earlier this year, and why this is such a big news to the digital advertising space, because it will impact how you as a campaigner receive and process conversion events from the tool advertisers used to use, which is the Facebook Pixel. So coming up, Emily from our digital services team, who have hands-on ad management experiences, and the team will discuss the impact of this and what it means to your ad strategy. So Emily.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So as what Amy actually just mentioned, overall on the digital advertisement world, it has been a very big change with the new iOS 14 release early this year. It pretty much has changed up the whole digital advertisement landscape over here. So one of the very important part of this new iOS 14 release is actually enforcement of the app tracking transparency prompt. Yes. So pretty much this just allow all of the iOS device users to have an option to either opt in or opt out of being tracked or sharing their data to a third-party platform. So as more people actually opting out or not willing to be tracked on the devices, ad personalization and performance reporting has become a challenge for a lot of digital advertising platform, which Facebook has been hit hugely under this prompt here. Next slide. And because of that, Facebook has actually adjusted their platform a lot to trying to cope with the lack of visibility of the data over here. So there are several changes on the platform that we have been seeing this year. Obviously, Facebook has been trying to promote a way of like, trying not to exit or avoid making any major changes of your ad campaign, so that your ad campaign is continually staying in the learning phase and collecting data, because Facebook do have a mechanism to reset the data collection process when you actually make some bigger changes, for example, the budget changes or like the interest or targeting changes over here. And Facebook is also trying to promote that you wanted to consolidate all of your campaign within your campaign structure, so that you can at least receive like 50 conversions per week. So it kind of give Facebook's optimization mechanism a little bit more data to actually work with and trying to find the right target audiences for your ad campaign. And finally, oh, sorry, last page. The biggest changes on Facebook, obviously, is their announcement of the aggregated event measurement. So without the visibility of all of the iOS 14 users, you can imagine that, hey, Facebook doesn't really have that many data to work with. So they're trying to aggregate all of the different data together to make sure that at least they know what kind of target audiences will be most optimized for the ad campaign. And that actually provided a lot more limitation for advertisers or campaigners to continue running Facebook ads, especially on a marketplace platform as Indiegogo. Next slide. Yes, so with the aggregated measurement events, pretty much Facebook now stipulates that any given domain can only host a maximum of like 8 aggregated events. So you can imagine Indiegogo as a domain, we can't really host thousands of campaigners events out there. So we have to think of a way to kind of improve and adapt with this change. So all of the Indiegogo campaigner can still have the data visibility on who actually come to your Indiegogo page and who actually converted or who actually submitted lead, etc. Next slide. So this is what we have decided to do, is that we are abandoning the original and pre-iOS 14 solution of having the campaigner to install their Facebook browser pixel on the Indiegogo campaign page. Instead, we are building a direct conversion API. So Indiegogo server is delivering all of the Indiegogo page events directly to the Facebook server. So we want to make sure that the data is being delivered to the Facebook side efficiently and can actually reflect under the campaigner's domain. So pretty much this is what we have built to trying to adopt with this huge change with the iOS 14 changes, and wanted to continue provide a visibility of data as much as we can for the campaigner with their Facebook campaigns over here. And in terms of how to actually install it, obviously this is not an easy way, but we do have 3 step-to-step guides on actually how to implement and set up your conversion API solution with your Indiegogo campaigns ads over here in our help center. And I think a lot of this information will also be shared after the webinar. So feel free to look at it and evaluate, because pretty much this is the only solution that we can provide it right now to continue having visibilities on the data tracking side. So to summary, how to actually trying to getting adapt into this new words of lacking privacy data being shared by the user. We want to get back to, yeah, you wanted to maybe adapt into like the conversion API tool that Indiegogo is providing and trying to follow what Facebook's ideas of how to actually aggregate all of your data over here. And as Amy has mentioned, you wanted to start building up your own customer relationship, your own community throughout maybe different marketing channel as well. Email marketing has been a very efficient media channel that we have found to keep growing and being in contact with your own community, and also trying to explore different kinds of communication channels to build it up. A strong pre-launch community will be very helpful in this like changing era.
Okay, great. So thank you, Emily, for sharing all the privacy constraints and also the CAPI solution that we have here at Indiegogo. And now we are going to just open up the floor for the attendees. If you have any questions, now I see we have one left in the comments. Feel free to drop in your comments there. We do have collected some initial and commonly asked questions ahead of this webinar, and we can go over them first and see if anyone else has additional questions. First one is, how much budget would you recommend we start with our own lead generation ads? So before you actually start running your lead gen ads, I think it's important that you go out to talk to people and validate your product value proposition first. And this can be easily done through, just talking to online or offline groups who will be your target audience. So for example, if you are launching a product targeting pet owners, you can easily find pet owners or pet parents who will be interested in your product, and just talk to them and see if you are receiving positive feedback or not. And once that's done, I would suggest you to start your experiment on Facebook advertising and to continue running these test ads to find out more audience. And in terms of budget, here at Indiegogo, we typically advise our campaigner to start the test phase with $2,000 and $3,000 US dollar budget. And this will allow you to get enough of data and results to understand your hypothesis and find and validate your product idea. And so for this part, Emily, anything else that you want to add to this? Okay. Okay. And then next question is, if I have limited budget, which marketing channel would you recommend me to leverage? So I will just share some initial ideas here, and Emily, feel free to chime in if you have more thoughts to add. So if you have limited budget, I would still recommend, starting with Facebook and Instagram, as this is the most affordable, and also with a large user pool that you can continue test and learn from the ads in your target audience. So be sure to leverage this, as a campaigner, a small business owner, to find out if you have a market fit there. Emily?
Yeah, And obviously, I think right now, some of the more organic way of communicating or growing your community can be an option as well. Right now, I also see another question coming in asking about have we already evaluate the difference result between or before like all of the Facebook updates. Pretty much, we are definitely seeing a drop of performances on Facebook post iOS 14 changes. And that is because of two main reasons. First of all, because we don't really have a clear visibility as before with the data that is coming in. So obviously, in terms of the optimization or like the machine learning mechanism has been less efficient. Secondly, because we also can't really track all of the data or events as efficient as before. That being said, a lot of the performance reporting, there may be data missing over there. So in general, we're definitely seeing like a drop of performance over there post iOS 14.
Okay. Yeah, but as we mentioned, there are multiple ways that you can build your community during the pre-launch phase. So this won't be constraints that limit you from doing your pre-launch list building. And then the third question is, should I start with global targeting if I do not know where my audience is? So for this question, I don't recommend starting with global targeting when you don't know where your audience is. My opinion is that basically if you do not know any like geolocations for you, geo restrictions for you to ship your products, then you are just like pouring your money into the ocean. So to start with, I would suggest to get an initial idea of the shipping fees and the shipping constraints of your product so that you have an understanding of the markets that you want to enter or it worth your energy or resources at this time to go in first. And then you can launch your ads targeting that geo. So for example, it does not make too much sense to invest your ad budget in let's say United Kingdom when your shipping cost will be like 100 or more or higher than the North America market. So it would not be a priority market for you to go after or being able to acquire a good amount of backers when you cannot reduce the shipping costs for the campaign. And Emily, anything else that you want to add to the global targeting question?
Yeah, I agree with what Amy said. And then on the very practical kind of rules on Facebook, because obviously you still wanted to target a big enough of a group to trying to lower down your CPC or like your click cost per click over here. So suppressing the country that you know that you're not going to ship or trying to enter will probably be better than only targeting on the country that you wanted to enter. But also this is more like a tactic that we use if we know that, hey, the campaigner actually do have the ability to ship worldwide. If your business can only ship to a certain region or country, I would still suggest to stick with it, but consider with like the cost per click that you may be paying, suppressing like a certain region, you're definitely not going into, maybe better.
And great. So it looks like we have some questions in the chat section. So I see there's one asking about, let's see, does the shipping cost are at the charge or backer or campaigner? So for this one, the backer, it depends on how you actually set up your campaign. So Indiegogo's campaign editor will allow you to set up a standalone shipping cost for the backers to pay on the payment page. And sometimes we will also see campaigners basically just combining the product price and the shipping cost together so that they can show that it's free shipping and it's a more appealing offer to the backer. And then the next one, my ad account was blocked for misleading ads on Facebook. Is there any way I could work around it? For this one, I believe you might want to start checking like the Facebook ad guidelines and also basically Facebook's responses to why they block your ad account and see what needs to be fixed. But Emily
Yeah, for this, because this is mostly due to the Facebook's own policy, and then in the past year, obviously with COVID, with a lot of like sensitive worldwide events, Facebook's ad policy has been changing a lot. So I will suggest to directly reach out to Facebook support, and then they should give you like a very clear response in terms of what has been violating their new ad policy over there.
Yeah, and then the next question is there a discount offer that is considered more effective? So obviously, like the more discount that you can offer, it's a more attracting deal to prospective backers. And so on Indiegogo, a lot of times that we saw campaigners could go very aggressively to offer like a 15% off discount to their backers. But keep in mind that this should really depend on your own financial and also your cost of manufacture the product. And the discount offer, you can think of it as a way that you can make the pre-launch ad more easily to acquire the customers when you offer like a aggressive discount, but it does not mean that you have to, lose a lot of money by doing the Indiegogo campaign. So you can be more strategic about how much quantity that you want to offer with an aggressive discount percentage.
Yeah, another way that we see could be very efficient as well is to try to do retargeting only with the special discounted offer. Just under the assumption that, hey, people probably didn't decide to convert or purchase the product because of the price reason. But it could be very interesting to look into some kind of data in terms of why people actually left the shopping cart in the end, and then trying to offer or like more information. That's probably sometimes some prospective backers are looking for, or some price deduction over there.
And then let's see. The next question is more about the email marketing. I'll just quickly answer it, but we actually have an upcoming session in November that will touch upon email marketing a little bit more. But generally speaking, yes, to make sure, your open rate and click rate of emails are good enough in order to engage your audiences. Make sure that you start verifying your domain and warm up your email list so that your emails won't just go straight into like a spam folder or promotion folder of your subscribers. And also utilize A/B testing on your subject line that will help you to find out the best and sweet messaging that will encourage your users to open the email. And then if we consider the advertising cost based on the targeted amount of money we want to raise, what would be the percentage of budget we need to book compared to the turnover? For this one, Emily, do you have any like insights into this specific question?
Oh, I don't think I received that question on my end.
Yeah, so basically the attendee is asking if we consider the advertising cost based on the targeted amount of money we want to raise, what would be the percentage of budget we need to book compared to the turnover? So I think the question is asking about the percentage of budget that they need to allocate upfront. So
I would say we normally we do have like a very simple equation in terms of trying to calculate in terms of how much of a fundraise that you're looking for, how many leads that you probably will need to collect beforehand. Thus, you deducted over kind of like calculated out how much of a budget that you may need. But in terms of pre-launch budget, normally we'll say around 20 to 30% of overall marketing budget. Amy, I'm not really sure is that the normal kind of decision that you're seeing on your end, because I think just based on the calculation, it also depends on how many lead that you're actually looking for. So I think it's probably better to start from how much funds that you're looking to raise,
right.
And then further concluded out how much of a budget that you may be looking for to set aside for the pre-launch phase.
Right, I agree. And also keep in mind that in general, in terms of the cost per lead, which is like the cost of the users that you acquire through your landing page, will typically advise our campaigners to keep it from 2.5 to $5 within this range. And so by having the amount of email lists that you have in mind and divided by the cost per lead, you can get a sense of the money that you need to spend. And then the next question, is there any way to build without Facebook ads? Like there are valid email lists to purchase. Facebook has been so challenging. Yeah, so this is also a question that we got pretty frequently. In terms of buying lists online, this is going to be a very tricky way of doing your email marketing. One thing is that it's hard to validate those email lists, their quality, and the method that provider used to collect those contact information, and that can give you some just privacy curveballs down the road. So I would still recommend that you start collecting leads using Facebook advertising. And even though it's challenging, as you mentioned, there are different ways that we can use to help make sure the leads that you collected is engaged and warm, and you use your other channels such as your social marketing, your offline groups to collect other contact information for your campaign launch on Indiegogo. Is in-demand free in charge or not? I'm looking to get my campaign started once and in Kickstarter. In-demand campaign, we also charge the platform fee. If you're coming from Kickstarter to Indiegogo to launch an in-demand campaign, our platform fee will be 8%. Yeah, so I think we got over time a bit. Classy, is it possible that we can collect all the remaining questions and perhaps we can answer them after the webinar?
Yeah. Any questions that you have in the chat, we'll review them and then we can get back to you, reach back out to you with the email that you used to sign up for the webinar about it. And also we have a, before Amy gets down to announce the upcoming webinar, I did post it up in the chat. if you're interested in launching on Indiegogo and working directly with our team to get your product or your next big idea funded, we do have a contact form. We only are able to work with a handful of entrepreneurs every month. So just fill out the form that I linked to in the chat. It links to like our entrepreneur center. Put in your details, everything that you can include about your campaign, and one of our campaign strategists will reach back out to you if it's the right fit. Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And a quick announcement of our upcoming webinar in November. We'll talk more in depth about how to build a pre-launch email list affordably. So make sure to keep track of Indiegogo's LinkedIn page or sign up for our entrepreneur newsletters to find out more info. And so that's it for today. And thank you everyone for attending the session.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye.